Hi, I'm Christopher Hine, and today we're going to talk about Ushiro Waza and what Ushiro Waza is. So I'm going to go from really kind of general terms about Ushiro Waza and why it's in Aikido and what it is, and why it's really kind of pivotal to understanding what the system of Aikido is trying to tell us. So I think there's some really important stuff in Ushiro Waza that we just kind of look over. So I'm going to get Josh out here and we're going to go to work. Josh? All right, let's talk about Ushiro Waza, and I think the big hint that Ushiro Waza gives us, and then I'll talk about some stuff that I think is fun to work with Ushiro Waza. So Ushiro Waza is techniques that come behind. The word in Japanese, Ushiro, just means behind, right? So anything that's behind you. Different than koho, which means to move behind or to go behind. So Ushiro, and it's anytime Josh is behind me. So this is Ushiro Waza when we're like this. Okay, now I think a really important thing that this points out about the system is built for multiple attackers, not built for one-on-one engagements. So that's its purpose, is multiple attackers. The reason we know that is because we have to train for someone being behind me. Boxing has no Ushiro Waza, right? Boxers don't practice anything like this. Kickboxers don't practice things like this. Wrestlers don't practice things like this because they don't need to, because in the sport, we line up like this and we're not going to get behind each other. One person, it's really, really hard for them to get behind you. Now, it's true that in wrestling there are situations where a guy slides behind once they're in a clinch, and there are clinch positions for it, but Aikido just has the whole concept of Ushiro Waza, and the only reason that really could be is because there's a second attacker. I mean, I guess we could have ninja sneak attacks or something, but it's most likely because there's a second attacker. All right, now how do we start to address it? So I think an important thing to understand is that Aikido's basic answer for this is generally Sotomori. And so a Sotomori from Ushiro is simply this, right? So that's a Sotomori, an outside turn. So if we were facing each other, outside turn looks like this. If I'm this way, outside turn looks like this, right? But I'm trying to turn to the outside, right? So outside of Josh. And then of course we do have 45s and triangles and other stuff that's in this, but that's our main idea. When we're doing that, we also want to have the hand up that we're turning to. So if I'm turning to my right, I want to have that hand up. And it does a lot of great things. One thing it does is it gets Josh reacting to me. So you notice how Josh's hands come up because you don't want me to hit him in the face. So his hands immediately start coming up, and that gives me a position to turn off of, right? So I got a position to turn off of, and plus I'm already putting up some kind of defense in the area. So even if we weren't next to each other, when I turn like this, my hand is up, so if he rushed at me, I'm already in a basic defended position, right? So whatever side we turn to, when we suspect someone's coming at us, we put the hand up of the side we're turning to. So a good drill to get your students starting to work with this is just a really simple shove from behind drill and come in and push me. And when he comes in and pushes me, I want to let him push me and turn with it, okay? So real simple. Now, what's going to happen with your students is it's going to look like this probably, right? So that's one thing that happens. Here's another thing that happens, right? So that happens a lot, okay? So you'll see a lot of that. So this is a good practice for kokyu. Learn to become relaxed. And then when he hits you, try not to be shocked by that. Just roll with it, turn your hand up, and move to the outside, right? So that's a good way to get them starting to work with it. It's a really good practice. This also gives you kind of a moment to start kind of talking about sixth sense kind of stuff. And then there's something else, right? Some sixth sense that psychics or fortune tellers have, like some kind of thing like that, right? So I believe when someone comes in to push me, right, I can kind of start to get the idea, and right, you see there it's real smooth because I kind of had the idea of when he's coming. Now I didn't do that because I looked at him, so I wasn't judging it by sight. It wasn't exactly that I could hear him, although I could kind of hear him, and I could kind of time what he's doing in my head. So I kind of had an idea of what he was doing, and it's not a woo-woo magic power. It's just simply I kind of understand what's going on, and so I can kind of work with that. And so then you can kind of start to work with, can you get them to touch lighter, right, without freaking out and spinning around, right? So that's a good thing to start to work with. Then you can start to work with suppression from this position. So let's say Josh comes in, and so as Josh comes in and I turn, I kind of find a way, how can I get behind Josh, right? And I can start to work with my suppression like that. Okay, so pre-grab, there is a ton of stuff that you can work in there, right? And you can work with them and talk to them about like how your mind can pay attention to things, how you can see them in your mind's eye. This is really good practice in Ushirowaza when they're moving around. You can kind of track them in your head. gets them to work on kokyu so they can be relaxed and calm when it happens and not be shocked and not resist really hard. So it's a really good practice to start to work with your students on that. I think Ushirowaza is really telling about what Aikido is about because there is so much Ushirowaza. There's a lot of Ushirowaza in Aikido. It's an important piece of the system. So I think that's a good thing to point out as well. I think I'll give you the basic overview of that. I'm Christopher Hines, Joshua Teehee, and my Solano McDaniel just snuck over to that camera right there, and then she's got like a little jaunty sailor kind of thing going on. I wonder if they heard her laugh. She laughed. She laughed even. We got her. Got her. All right. So that's it for this video on Ushirowaza. We'll see you in some future videos.